the moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Ho, 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 everyone. Merry Christmas.
Woo, it's Christmas again?
It's Christmas time. And we are right in the middle of a TMI series of Christmas episodes that we have embarked on. Last week, to your chagrin or to your delight, depending on your opinion.
Yeah, a little of both.
We covered both Star Wars holiday specials. The original.
And it was a delightful conversation. Regardless of what you feel about this, it needs to be talked about. And we did. We talked about it.
We did. And if anything deserves its own commentary track, I would have loved to have sat with Jeff and commented on this as it played out live. But
we would have been full on Mystery Science Theater.
Yes, we would have. Yes, we would have.
We're stepping on toes there. I don't know. That might be copyrighted.
What, just the idea of commenting
talking
on
over
a movie?
I mean,
but regardless, that's behind us, and we're embarking on a new Christmas chapter this week. This is going to be a 5-bucket episode. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I think Phantasm was the last one we did that was a 5-bucket.
No, it was actually what was it?
Dawn of the Dead? No,
Dawn
but then Christina had a secret 5-bucket as well.
But it wasn't a standalone.
It wasn't a standalone episode.
It wasn't a standalone. It was a sneak attack 5-bucket.
So, and I mentioned Christina. She is under the weather. She is not with us this
that's
episode.
Too bad, because I think that I'm wearing my Nightmare shirt with Oogie Boogie,
yes.
and I'm sure she would have been full on Jack Skellington hoodie. We're missing a lot with her not being here. So
now, the way that our 5-bucket episodes work, it only really has to be considered a 5-bucket movie by one of us, and then the other two, by law,
just have to abide.
You abide. You don't say anything contrary.
And TMI laws.
You button your lip and you go along with it.
But I think we're all in agreement on this one.
And Christina, this one I know was on her list just from our conversations on the show in the past.
Absolutely.
So hopefully she'll be feeling better next week, and we'll get her take quickly during that 5-bucket episode, which we'll explain a little bit later. Yes, we are all about Nightmare Before Christmas. Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas is the official title.
I love it. Disney went all in. They're like, we're going to brand this.
Now, there's a little bit of controversy around this, because I don't know, Jeff, if you had a chance to see, there's a show on Netflix called The Movies That Made Us.
Okay.
They just came out with a holiday edition with 2 episodes, one that shows the making of Elf, and the second episode, which is all about Nightmare Before Christmas.
No, I've not had a chance. Oh, I missed. Can we just stop recording right now? I'll go watch it and then come back, because I love, especially this movie.
So let's talk about this. This was released in October, of course, 1993. Now, there's always an argument around this movie. Is it a Christmas movie or is it a Halloween movie?
Okay, and where do you fall?
I tend to watch this more on Halloween, and I watch it so much during Halloween that I'm kind of played out with it for Christmas.
Because you know what it does? It whets your appetite for Christmas.
Yes, it does.
Halloween, it is a Halloween movie. It is centered around Halloween Town, Jack Skellington, and he's hijacking Christmas. So I agree with you. It is more of a Halloween movie.
The main thrust of the plot is, as you say, Halloween Town trying to take over Christmas.
Yeah. And if you've never seen this movie, then stop listening to us and go watch it, because there's a reason that this is a 5-bucket movie, and it's well beyond just the technical aspects and the songs. This movie is so well put together, and I do remember even I saw this in the theater when it was released, probably October 1993, with a girlfriend at the time, and we took her two younger brothers. And I think I immediately fell in love with it more so than anyone else I was with. My relationship with this movie has lasted longer than that relationship, by the
Right.
way.
Were you an Oingo Boingo fan in the 80s? Or
Huge,
did you
huge,
okay.
huge Oingo Boingo fan. I am still a huge Oingo Boingo fan. And because of Danny Elfman's trajectory in going into movies, I am unabashedly in love with Danny Elfman. I think that he can do no wrong. We won't bring up the Planet of the Apes, which I've gone on record that was a misstep by everyone involved. I just think the man's a genius. I truly do. Such a unique voice, such a unique take. And when you realize that this guy had no classical training whatsoever, none whatsoever, he was like gobsmacked when he was first asked to provide music for Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I'm going to go into this special on Netflix quite a bit because they do have a lot of information. Yeah. One of the interviewees is Danny Elfman.
Okay.
And he does go back and he talks about his relationship with Tim Burton being an Oingo Boingo fan himself.
Right. Yep.
And they reached out to him for Pee-wee, as you said. Yep. How would you like to do the score? And he said, I've never done a score ever. Yeah. I'm like, how can I do this?
And he's like, I trust you. Yeah.
He was about to turn it down, but at the same time, he was becoming disenchanted with being the lead singer of Oingo Boingo and going through that whole rock and roll
which is sad to hear. You know?
So I think it was time in his life for a change anyway, and he just jumped. And
he just went for it, and we're all the better for it.
He is just one of the most prolific and
absolutely, and humble. He really is kind of like, listen, I just stumbled onto this, like, oh gosh, Jill, it's just.
And it's not just that he's prolific. Everything that he does is so indelible and iconic.
Unique.
All these
iconic.
Things are iconic.
Yeah.
This maybe being the most of all, that's arguable, but this may be his masterpiece.
This right. I mean, obviously, Batman theme, there's other stuff.
The Simpsons theme.
The Simpsons. I mean, there's stuff that you probably don't even realize that he touched or is a part of. But yeah, you're right. I think this is probably his greatest legacy. Every song in this is spot on perfect.
So you saw this in the theater.
Yep.
You were in love with it immediately.
Absolutely. Because really, I mean, stop motion had kind of really gone away. You didn't see this style. It's kiddie. It's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer that you watch once a year, when you're 7 years old.
But that's why they wanted to do this. They wanted to make something akin to these holiday specials, and that's why they wanted.
Well, I don't think you could have done it any other way because the design of these characters, and especially Jack Skellington, who is nothing but sticks. How else would you pull this off unless
imagine
it was animated?
how easy it was to build that armature. That's all you had to build was an armature with clothes on it, right?
This was old school claymation, where you had to move his jaw, you had to move the armature one little bit, take a stop, come back, move his arm again, move his head, move his eyes, move his face.
But at the same time, they were showing in this documentary briefcases full of jack heads.
So they did have different heads.
They did. It was a snap-on, snap-off thing. But at the same time, they were able to move
it. They were malleable. Yes. It was like a precursor to kind of what Leica does now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure if this is true, but that this special claimed that it was the first full-length stop-motion movie. Now, I'm not sure of that.
I would be hard-pressed to...
There's a movie that we brought up a few weeks ago. I don't know if it ever made the final cut of the episode that we talked about it in, but Christina had mentioned a movie called Mad Monster Party, which is a Rankin Bass, but it was released theatrically in the 60s, and I believe that was stop motion and not animated. I could be wrong about that. Jeff is intrepidly looking this up now.
It's not giving me much information. It's an hour and a half. It's an hour 35 minutes.
Here we go. I just found it. Okay, Mad Monster Party is a 1967 American stop-motion animated musical comedy film. So this did predate Nightmare Before Christmas, but I do believe that we can say that Nightmare Before Christmas is the highest profile stop-motion film to be released. So I am a late bloomer. with Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, okay.
This, I didn't get it when I saw it in the theater in 1993 as well. Although, a stupid 20-year-old kid, I was not down with musicals at that time,
The
unless it was like
singing.
a rock musical. It
Yeah.
kind of all sounded the same to me, not being overwhelmed by it.
Right. Were you on
I
a
didn't-
date? Did you take a date to
I
this?
don't remember.
You don't
But
remember.
I
Gotcha.
honestly do not remember, but I do remember seeing it in the theater.
But it didn't leave an impression on
It
you.
didn't leave an impression. And
Interesting.
it didn't over many years until I had my own child. When he was 4 years old, I was buying all the Disney movies, right? 'Cause
Yep.
I'm excited
Sure,
to,
that's what you do as a dad.
right?
Yeah.
And one of them was Nightmare Before Christmas. If it was that time of year. So I put it in. He loved it from the first viewing, and he
Yeah.
wanted to watch this movie over and over again. I had to buy the soundtrack for him.
Oh yeah.
This was my world, this movie suddenly. And
Yeah.
as I watched it, and I watched it every single time, again and again and again, it started to sink in.
Yeah.
And I started to see the genius of this thing. And because we had the Blu-ray, it was so beautiful. There's so
Yes,
much
yeah.
detail in every
Yeah.
frame. You could freeze frame any moment of this.
Yeah.
See a million different things that
The
you've never
textures
seen
going on, the
before.
colors, it really is a spectacle.
The music just sticks with you as well. Once you allow it to get
Mhm.
into your head, which I hadn't before. It's unbelievable that these songs were not monster hits, that they're not like standards that you hear
Yeah.
everywhere today. You do. I've been to the Disney parks, their Halloween parades and stuff, and these songs are played heavily during that time, but you never really hear them on the radio, which is
No, which
odd
is
to
weird,
me.
right? Yeah. I mean, there's not that many Halloween songs to begin with,
Yeah,
but yeah, you
the
would think
Monster
that-
Mash, the Monster
Right,
Mash is
correct, yeah.
basically it, right?
The Monster Mash.
The Purple People
Um,
Eater, whatever,
Yep.
these novelty
Yeah,
songs.
but you're right. And what's funny is that you mentioned, that it didn't really leave an impression on you. And I think that happened across the board. It wasn't like a monster hit, but it has grown into a cult status. Because I remember that they had toys that were immediately like discounted at your Suncoast video. They couldn't get rid of this stuff, and now they're so highly sought after. They're because no one bought them at the time, so they all went into bins,
Right.
still in boxes. And they didn't make like a ton of the stuff, but there's enough out there that you got your diehard collectibles that are highly chaseable.
Just like any other 5 bucket movie, because this is definitely a 5 bucket movie for me. This is
Yes.
on my list of 5 bucket movies. This is a movie that you can live in, that you know every beat, that you're almost upset when it's coming to its end. And this movie, however, having said that, this movie has one of the most beautiful endings of any film ever made. I look forward to watching that ending every time I see it. The swell of music
Yeah, I was
at-
gonna say I have it
Sally
played in
is
my
on-
head right
is
now.
on the mountain, and Jack is
Yeah.
walking up, and he starts "My Dearest Friend," and I almost
Yeah, I'm getting
cry
goosebumps.
every
Uh,
time.
Yeah, because it is so. Because his character goes through, again, they're cartoon characters, but they really, he especially has this character arc, and this kind of awakening of who and what he is. But it is voice casting is spot on throughout. Like you said, the visuals, the world that is created. And the interesting thing is that it is Tim Burton's A Nightmare Before Christmas, but he did not direct it. But it is based on his sketchbook drawings. All these characters existed in his head in one form or another.
And he wrote a poem before
Yes.
this, based on "'Twas the Night Before Christmas."
Right.
But his skewed version is "The Nightmare Before Christmas."
Right.
And it was a very basic outline of this story. Didn't have Oogie Boogie. It's bare bones, and it followed along the same beats as "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." And on the Blu-ray, it's Christopher Lee reading
it.
this
Wow. Yeah.
along with Tim Burton's original drawings. And Sally isn't even in this. She is
Right.
a character in one of the drawings, but she's not a character in the poem itself. And when my son was at his height of Nightmare Before Christmas mania, when he was probably 5 or 6, I would get the book out of the library, the poem, the picture book, and read it in Christopher Lee's voice.
Nice. Could you replicate that a little bit right here, right now?
There's one line. Okay.
I could be Santa. I could spread cheer. Why does he get to do it year after year?
Nice. Now you're gonna have to read that to me every year. Oh, Christopher Lee. Yeah, so we open right up with building this world that all of these holidays exist in their own town. And you get this nice little visual of the you get the trees. It's like in the middle of the forest, and each tree has a symbol, and it's a doorway, whether it's Easter or it's Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving. And imagine if he went through the turkey instead. Like this was the Nightmare Before Thanksgiving.
So here's my question, and I didn't think of this until this viewing here, and I asked my son, and he couldn't give me an answer either. The film opens with this circle of trees, right? But Jack hasn't discovered it yet. He discovers it a little bit later in the movie.
Right. We're introduced to it as the audience, and you get the voiceover explaining this whole idea of these holidays existing.
You see the Halloween door open, and then you see Jack as the Pumpkin King, as a scarecrow, and he points the way for you to continue into the movie, which is one of my favorite scenes as well. Yeah. But later on, when Jack finds this circle himself, he's kind of disenchanted. Danny Elfman was saying that he felt like Jack at that time in his life.
Yeah, no, this was very autobiographical.
Yeah.
When you think about it, because of what you had just said before, that he was really kind of disenfranchised with the time. It was at the height of his game with Oingo Boingo, and yet he does feel unfulfilled. So just like the Pumpkin King, you rock it. Everybody in the town is just lauding him. Another successful Halloween. Let's go, Jack. Let's get together. The mayor, who's one of my favorite characters.
Yes.
Oh, Jack.
I'm an elected official. I can't make decisions on myself. Right. And he says, Jack, and he falls down the stairs.
Yes. Yeah.
But so Jack goes into the woods and he comes upon this circle. So he is in Halloween Town. Yet there's a Halloween
Town
there,
door, right? Yeah, so, it is kind of like
there's a conundrum there, right?
Right.
So,
shh, just walk.
So where would he go if he opened? He'd be back in town, right? That's
maybe it's like a portal. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe these woods exist in every single one of these holidays.
Yeah, maybe it's like a nexus. Yeah, we're thinking too much into this.
We open with "This Is Halloween."
There's a 2-disc CD out there, which we have a couple different covered versions of these songs.
But what's funny is if you listen to that one and listen to the original, I think the original rocks a little bit harder than Marilyn Manson's version.
Yeah. I love different takes on stuff like this.
It's true, but this is just so driving. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. You should probably want to put the soundtrack on while you're listening to it.
You're listening to this. And this really sets up the spookiest imagery, I think, in the whole movie. You've got the clown with the tearaway face, the thing living under the bed. You've got a little foreshadowing of Oogie Boogie in the moonlight.
In the moon. Yep. Yeah, we meet Sally. We meet
I am the Who. When you say who's there, and then you see Sally combing her hair during that line, and the wind that goes through her hair. It's just everything is perfect about this.
Yes.
And, we're talking about the detail in a lot of the frames. In any frame when you're in Halloween Town, if you look at the ground, everything is grooved. There's like a pattern that goes through this that's so Burton-esque. And I think that was one of Selleck's dictums was, okay, this is your movie, but make it as Tim Burton as possible.
Yeah. Like I said, the textures, like everything, even in the woods, the trees, everything has such this heightened texture to it that it just draws you in. It just wants you want to be a part of that world.
Yeah.
And before I lose this thought, I want to bring up that one of our former co-hosts actually brought up the point that Jack may have awakened her sexualness. So he's very androgynous, but he's very sexy. He's very charismatic. So yeah, maybe, I don't know. I'm sure that there's other people who had crushes on him. So I always had a crush on Zero myself, but
we're introduced to Jack. He's just come off another successful Halloween. But now the characters do point out in the opening song, "This Is Halloween," that they're not mean. They don't want the kids to think that they're out killing everybody on every Halloween.
Correct. They're in for a good scare.
It's all good-natured fun. Even though the vampires do say most blood drawn this guy, whose blood are they draining?
Yeah. I think the vampires are one of the scariest. I don't think the clown with the tearaway face. I think the big guy in the overalls with the axe sticking out of his head.
The behemoth. Yes.
I didn't know that was his name.
That's his name. Well, on the Funko Pop, that's his name.
Oh, okay. See, yeah.
We also get introduced to Sally.
Sally.
Who is probably my favorite character in the movie.
Armswort,
Yes.
Sally.
Right on my desk here, I've got a little
There she
Sally.
is. Yeah, my friends Leslie and Alina dressed up as Jack Skellington and Sally for Halloween.
Now, just like the patchwork quality of Sally, and you know, we're talking about the grooves in the ground. She's got a lot of grooves like going down her hair.
Yep.
So there's so much detail. She's got the stitched
Stitching.
smile, and she's got that I love the color blue. So I just think it's a very appealing character.
Yes, and you know, and what's implied is that the professor, the little guy in a wheelchair, created her.
Finkelstein, right? I think that's his
Finkelstein,
name.
is that his name?
Yes.
Professor Finkelstein. She is like stuffing. She's got, you know, she's a Frankenstein-esque sewn together arms or whatever, and she falls, a leg falls off, she sews it back on. A couple times for comedic effect, she'll actually take her arm off to get stuff or to use it for something else.
She's created for Finkelstein,
and
she does
not
want to be. Yeah, that's a little bit.
He's in a wheelchair, so I don't know what
you don't want to get too far into these questions.
No,
that's her purpose, is to be Finkelstein's toy, for lack of a better term, and she does not want to be that. So she is questioning her existence as well. So she sees that in Jack. Unfortunately, Jack is so tied up in himself that he can't see it until the end. But that's why she's so infatuated with him.
Yeah.
And she's just full of pathos, and I just love the character of Sally. I love the character, as voiced by Catherine O'Hara.
Now, does she do their singing as well?
Yes. Well, she only has the one song, right?
The
she
one
has
song,
Sally's song, but she does sing her
And
song.
that's the one thing, you know, we talk about. So Danny Elfman does all of Jack's singing, but his voice acting is Chris Sarandon.
Correct.
But they are very, like, you wouldn't really know it.
I didn't realize until like a year into watching the movie that they're
two different
people.
Yep, because there are times when, you know, you get a character voice actor and then it breaks into song and it's so obvious that it's not the same person singing. But this is almost seamless.
And it's what's heartbreaking about this is watching this Netflix special is that originally Danny Elfman did do the dialogue of Jack. But upon review, they didn't think that he was a strong enough actor to use his dialogue, and he was upset. You could tell he's still upset. By this, that they didn't use his voice.
Him and David Prowse.
So Jack finds the circle of trees, opens the one that looks like a Christmas tree, and it sucks him in. So suddenly he is in Christmas Town.
And this is probably one of the best songs ever.
And we are in Rankin Bass land. It is, you know,
you are straight on. Yeah.
Where everything seemed dirty and gritty in Halloween Town, this is clean and sparse and white snow. So what's funny is that this was the first sequence that was animated, so they could show Disney. They didn't want to get into trouble with the Halloween stuff, thinking that Disney might not approve of the grittiness of it.
Yeah,
so they went with Christmas first, so to kind of play to the Disney sensibility.
Well played, boys.
So Jack is fascinated, and we get another great song. What's this? What's this?
What's this? There's magic everywhere. What's this?
So yeah, we are basically dumped into a Rankin Bass special during this sequence.
Santa Claus? And even Santa Claus, like you look at his design, he's not a cuddly Santa Claus by any means.
No, he's not. And he's a little ornery as well in personality.
I would be too. Although, to be honest with you, in that sequence, all you see is a shadow.
Correct.
So once again, if you're gonna run that by the Disney execs, you're like, oh no, look at this nice fun movie we're making.
Now, what's funny is that knowing this now, this backstory, is that they didn't have a script until very late in the game. And as we both know, when you're animating something, you need
that's crazy.
Script. You need the dialogue in order to animate the character.
You can't just dialogue, loop it up at the end.
So they're waiting, and they still don't have anything to work with. So what they did was they asked Elfman to do the songs so they could at least animate those sequences.
Right.
So it all started with the songs, and then they worked backwards and filled in the bits in between the songs.
Which is unbelievable. That for all of that to come together and to be as flawless as it is.
So yeah, after the What's This sequence, Jack comes back and he's stolen a cart from Christmas Town and he's got some presents. And he's so excited because this is the new thing. This is what he's been looking for. He wants to throw Halloween out and he wants to do Christmas.
Something new.
He wants to do Christmas.
Yeah. And that's a great scene where he calls the town hall. he's like, we call this a box. What's in a box? Is it filled with a box? They only know their Halloween references. Right. They're not quite grasping the concept of.
And I love in the town hall. Let's talk about some of the other denizens of Halloween Town. Love the Wolfman guy.
The Wolfman, yeah.
He's one of my favorites. And also, I didn't notice this until this viewing, is that the tree with the hanging skeletons is in the hall with everybody else.
Oh, is he? Yeah, because we see him at the beginning during the opening
That's
song.
who Sally is sitting on in the back. She's sitting on the tree branch. Yeah, I never noticed that.
He takes up a lot of space, I would think.
Yes, he does. That's why he sits in the back.
Yeah.
They're kind of mystified because, like you said, they only know their frame of reference is through Halloween. So Jack says, well, they don't really get what I'm saying. I might as well give them what they want. So he builds up Sandy Claus as this monster. And you're unsure whether Jack truly thinks of him this way.
Right.
Or is just making
He's
this up.
He's just trying to make it a little more palpable.
Because throughout, he calls him Sandy Claus.
Well, he even makes a mention when he finally sees him. He's like, you don't have claws at all. You just have tiny little hands.
Jack now wants to bring Sandy Claus into Halloween Town to give him a little bit of rest and relaxation. So Jack could possibly take things over. How does he do this?
What could possibly go wrong?
He enlists what the mayor calls Boogie's boys, even though it's two boys and one
girl. Right. Like
Lock, Shock, and Barrel are their names.
Lock, Shock, and Barrel, yeah.
One of them. Herman. One of them voiced by Pee Wee Herman himself.
Yeah, Catherine O'Hara does one of their voices as well. But I think Danny Elfman, so it's Paul Rubens, Catherine O'Hara, and Danny Elfman do the three voices.
I see.
And then we get that glorious Kidnap Sandy Claus song with the walking tub as they're on their way to go.
They bring back the Easter Bunny first.
Oh, that's right. That is a great sequence.
Because they go through the wrong door and they bring back the Easter Bunny who comes jumping out, and then the behemoth bunny as soon as they're here. Jack still entrusts them with a job, even after this screw up of going back. And who knows what they did with the Easter Bunny. If they
Haas and Pfeffer for everybody.
Ugh. So they have to bring back the Easter Bunny. Then you actually see them kidnap Santa Claus in Christmas. They knock on his door and throw the bag over his head. Yep. Haven't you ever heard of the Christmas spirit? No.
But this is the montage we get when Jack is really trying to, decipher like why Christmas is magical, and he's breaking it down. He goes to Finkelstein's lab, and he's using all of his equipment, crushing candy canes. He's crushing, Christmas bulbs, trying to decipher and why is this? He's reading books. And it's like, right, because he has no point of reference.
Yeah.
Brilliant scene where he's just racking his brain trying to figure out what makes Christmas Christmas.
And the scene where he goes to Finkelstein's to tell him that he's working on a series of experiments.
Jack, my boy.
Jack. And Finkelstein, this is one of my favorite lines. Finkelstein says, curiosity killed the cat, and Jack says, I know. Like as if he was the one that helped curiosity along.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about that, kitty cat. Well, that's the alarm when Jack goes missing. There's a little cat.
Yes.
Bad news, everybody.
Fast forward a little bit, we get the big Making Christmas song. Again, all these songs, they're akin to each other, but they're not the same. They're all unique to themselves, these songs. So it's not like they were just repeating the same musical theme over and over and over again. They're earworms. They get stuck in your head. It's one of these songs.
Yep.
So yes, and Sally, unfortunately, is not having any of this. She knows that Jack's fascination is misplaced.
She gets a premonition that this is not going to end well, and she's trying to kind of warn him.
One of the more endearing scenes involves Sally early on when she sneaks out from Finkelstein's and gives him a little gift basket. He pulls it up and he opens it up, and the blue butterfly from Mandalorian comes out.
There it is. Jack Skellington's going to be the seventh member of the Magnificent Seven.
And then he looks down and she's gone because she's hiding because, she's still shy. Around Jack. I think it's during that scene while she's hiding, she gets the premonition about the burning Christmas
she sees
tree.
Yep. You're right.
So she knows that this is not a good thing. And he should leave things the way that they are. Which is weird because that's, if that were the case, then she would stay Finkelstein's toy, right?
Correct, right.
So But yeah, but she knows that his whole plan here is not going to end well. So she's always tut-tutting in the background, and she's trying to sabotage things like in her own way. Jack has the ghostly skeletal reindeer.
Those are awesome, by the way.
They are awesome.
Although I think there's only 3.
Yeah,
Right?
there's not many.
Yeah.
It's
No.
not like they have 8.
Hey, listen, you're going to animate 8 of them? No.
She pours something into the fountain and makes it all foggy. So nobody can see anything. And Jack's like, well, we can't fly in this, but nope, he's got 0. He's a built-in Rudolph right there.
Yep. So apparently if you have a glowing nose, you're going to be leading a sled at some point in your life.
But at the same time, Oogie's boys, as they're called, bring Santa not to rest comfortably somewhere in Halloween Town. They bring him
to Oogie Boogie.
To Oogie Boogie himself.
Probably the coolest friggin' character ever.
The character of Oogie may be the biggest thing in the public perception, the biggest image, the biggest singular image in the public perception of Nightmare Before Christmas. If you say Nightmare Before Christmas to the uninitiated and maybe the initiated, the first thing I think you might think of is Oogie Boogie.
Because he's just like a big malicious sack.
And so far, everybody in Halloween Town, even though that they're scary and they're dark, they're not threatening in any way.
No, correct. They're ugly looking, but they're pure at heart, I guess. They're simply in it because they're from Halloween Town.
So this is the first bad guy that we get in the movie,
Yeah.
and he is pretty bad. I don't know what exactly he wants to do to Santa Claus.
Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, well, not only that, like what are his motivations beyond that? What does he do? Does he just sit around lamenting the fact that he's not running Halloween Town?
Perhaps, yes, because it seems that he and Jack have run in several times before, that they have had their disagreements.
Correct.
And, and to a lesser extent, the 3 kids are not very great either.
Right.
So you got to question Jack forever putting any responsibility in their hands. While Santa is brought to Oogie Boogie and he's about to do nefarious things, Sally, as a last-ditch effort, tries to go free Santa. And that doesn't end well either.
Yeah.
So Sally ends up being captured by Oogie Boogie. Then Jack goes off to take Santa's place and deliver Christmas presents that the Halloween Town have made to fill Jack's bag of gifts.
But we did talk about Oogie Boogie's song, his intro. Genius. Ken Page is the actor who does his voice and sings. It's like you said, he's so iconic. Yeah, he's just bad for the sake of being bad. No motivation whatsoever. But yeah, poor Jack. He's like, all right, we're just gonna go and deliver these packages.
Before we leave the Oogie Boogie song, I love those call and response vocals, the background vocals, because when you watch this on surround sound, those vocals come from
behind. Yeah,
they're loud, so it's like somebody's in the room, so it startles you every time.
This is great. This is like a full on cabaret song.
Yeah, it is.
It's awesome. It really is. It is one of the better songs in this entire movie. Like I said, there's not a bad song in here.
No,
but the Oogie Boogie song is a lot of fun.
So Jack goes on his Christmas Eve run as Santa Claus. And this is one of the great things because he's giving the gifts that the Halloween Town has made, which aren't really the greatest gifts.
No, severed head. What'd you get, honey? And he pulls out a shrunken head.
He pulls out a shrunken head. Now, this is funny because this is the one scene in this movie that my son was scared of when he was a little kid. He would leave the room before this scene happened, then come back after it was done.
The shrunken head.
Just the shrunken head, nothing else affected.
I think the giant snake would have gotten me. You know what's funny is I have a customer on my route who actually has the wreath that comes to life. He's got the wreath and it's got the little eyes and the things, and I'm like, I want to steal that thing. That's cool. It must be like from a Disney store or something.
Then we get the little vampire teddy bear.
Oh yes, and a duck, and they're getting phone calls. What's that? Your Christmas gift has come to life. It's like from the police station.
So, but if you look closely, and I'm sure you've seen this, the pajamas of those 2 kids that get the vampire teddy bear and the duck have Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck on the pajamas.
Yeah, nice little product placement in there.
And there's your hidden Mickey right there.
There you go.
It's on the pajamas. The police eventually have to shoot Jack down.
Yeah, this is actually very disturbing. They're like unloading artillery weapons at this guy. You got the Klieg lights going. They're celebrating us. They love us. No, they're trying to kill you.
Jack gets a direct hit from one of these missiles, and they're trying to hit us.
You get it now.
And ends up in a graveyard.
Yeah, he's in the arms of the angel. His jaw's been dislodged.
And it is a very nice image where he is in the arms of the angel. And the tattered Santa Claus suit almost looks like rivulets of blood coming off.
Yeah, yeah.
And then during this song, he realizes that yes, he is the Pumpkin King. That this was
Yes,
a
that is a
mistake.
nice realization. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You know what? Screw it. I messed up. Stay true to who and what I am.
Yeah.
Stick to your lane, Jack.
And then he realizes at the end of the song that he's got to make things right. Sandy Claus, and he
Yep.
apparently any graveyard has direct access to Halloween Town because he opens up one of the doors.
Right, and boom, he's there.
He's there, and
Right to
so
Oogie Boogie's house. And this
Oogie
is a
Boogie.
great confrontation. This is so much fun because Oogie Boogie's got all these fun little toys going on.
and he's about to drop them into like molten lava. He's got them on this tied up on this platform, and he's pulling this lever back. And
Yep.
just a few more pulls, and they're going to slide right off.
Slide right off.
And he's playing with them, right? He's rolling the dice, and whatever comes up on the dice, that's how many pulls he's going to do. He comes up with snake eyes.
Oh, snake eye.
Snake eyes, and he hits the thing because he knows that two more is not going to do it. Right? He doesn't just
Right. No,
yeah.
It was definitely yeah.
Was this his last throw? He said, "Okay, with this throw, I'm going to end it."
Snake eyes. Damn it.
But nope.
Nope.
Jack saves the day. It's Jack that's standing
It's
there.
a nice reveal too.
It is. It is.
Because you get the camera shot from the back of the platform, so you just assume that they dropped. Yeah.
So then we get the final confrontation, which is very, and I've brought this movie up before, I think when we talked about Tenet, but this final confrontation, and talk about Christopher Lee, is very similar to the showdown between James Bond and Scaramanga in the Man with
yes,
the
at the
Golden
end.
Gun.
Yeah.
Because Christopher Lee
Yeah.
has like a fun house that looks very much like what Oogie Boogie has. Like he's got these mannequins that come out dressed like cowboys with guns that fire.
Shooting guns, yep. And the platforms rotating around, and this is where Jack takes on these very spider-like proportions as he's stepping over this stuff, and his knees are going higher than his torso. It's so well done.
And I love the fact that Oogie Boogie calls him Bone Man.
What he doesn't realize is that one of his threads has gotten caught.
Now, we've gotten little teases of this throughout in the Oogie Boogie scenes, that he's got bugs coming out from here and there. But the reveal at the end is that he is made up entirely of bugs
Yeah,
under
he's
this
like
burlap, under this canvas.
He's like a horde. Once his canvas bag shell has been removed, he falls apart, and they all fall into the lava.
Until you have one left, which is stomped upon.
He's like, I'm done with you. Oh, that's right. Santa does it. That's
Santa
right.
does it.
Get me
yes.
out of this place.
Yes. Jack
I'm sorry,
is-
Santa.
He's
Yeah.
apologetic, and he goes, "I hope there's time." Of course there is. I'm Santa.
I'm Santa Claus.
Well,
Right.
why couldn't you just free yourself then of Oogie Boogie?
Well, apparently all it takes is a pair of handcuffs.
Well, no, I think what he has to do is put one finger to the side
Oh,
of his
there you
nose,
go. There you
and
go.
his hands were tied, so he couldn't.
It's
do
true.
that.
There you go. Sally could have just untied one of her hands, slapped it on his nostril, and off. he
Yeah,
would have
and
went.
then off he would have roared into the
Yeah.
night, right?
That would have been a shorter movie.
So everything really tumbles to a quick conclusion after Santa is released, because then Jack comes back to town because everybody thought that he had died.
Bad news, everybody.
Although how could he really die? He's already dead. so-
Right, correct.
So Jack-
Skeleton Jack has been blown to smithereens.
Smithereens. Everybody's so happy to see Jack, and Jack is now re-embraced his role as Pumpkin King, and everything's going to be
Yep.
fine again.
Let's get started next year. I got brand new ideas.
But not everybody's happy. Sally still slinks away because she's been kind of forgotten in all of this joyful
Yep.
parade, right? And here's where we get that scene I was talking about, where Jack
Yeah.
finally wakes up and he realizes
Yeah.
that Sally's been kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes.
No pun intended. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's such an iconic shot.
Yeah,
The
this
mountain,
hilltop
yeah.
is really, because it's like this spiral kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a spire, but it's all coiled up.
It's like a curly cue, and then
Yeah.
earlier on, like it unfurls.
It actually
for
unfurls
Jack
for
as
him
he-
to walk down. But
to
yeah,
walk down.
it's such, the moonlit.
Yeah.
It is, one of the most iconic scenes.
And
the
Santa
movie.
has gifted Halloween Town with snowfall. So
Snow,
it's covered in snow. And again, there's that line, "My dearest friend, if you don't mind," and he walks up to her,
Yep.
and they
And
embrace.
then they embrace. Yeah.
And
and
is
that's
that the North Star that you're supposed to see? That zero becomes the Christmas star? at
Maybe
the- yeah.
Christmas star. That's probably. There you
And-
go.
a great, great movie, and I love it to death every time I see it. But again,
Yeah.
I tend to watch it more Halloween
Yes, correct. I agree with you there.
than I do Christmas. So I am in the Halloween contingent.
Yep.
Ugh.
You can watch it anytime, anywhere.
You can. Tim Burton was very busy making Batman Returns during most of the production of Nightmare Before Christmas. So he only came to the set a few times.
I can't imagine. I can't believe that.
Um,
But I guess that's good. Hands off. Let the artists do their thing.
And what's funny is that by all accounts, the people that they interview say that when he did show up to set, he had a group of people. I don't want to say entourage because that might paint him in a different way than I'd like to, but they called them the Burtonettes, the people that came with Tim Burton and kind of followed him around.
That's funny.
I think Disney had pushed for a slightly changed ending because I don't think that they thought that the Oogie Boogie storyline resolved itself in a great way. So they wanted Oogie Boogie, once his thread got caught and he was revealed, they wanted it to be Finkelstein in the Oogie Boogie
Oh, really?
canvas. So they had storyboarded that. Selleck had storyboards showing this
I've
new
never
ending.
heard that.
And he showed it to Burton. He's like, this is the ending that we're going to pursue.
Right.
Burton, he put his foot through the wall. And he's like, no. He's like,
Wow.
after he left, what the cast did was they cut out the section of the wall with
That he kicked.
it was the hole in it,
Right.
and framed it, and that stayed on set. Obviously, it went back to the original ending of Oogie Boogie. Just they were trying to tie it all together with Finkelstein and
Right.
yeah.
It's Finkelstein all along.
But Finkelstein has his own little happy ending at the end.
That's true.
Finally
He makes himself a nurse.
He cuts out a quarter of his brain and puts it in her head. And
I love the fact that he always lifted his head up to scratch his brain. Such a great little visual. He is a fun character.
Yeah, he was.
That's the is it William
Pritzi's Honor?
I always go back to One Crazy Summer. He was the cranky old
Christmas
Hoppenstead.
Vacation.
Yes, correct. Yeah,
Mhm. Uncle somebody. He sets the Christmas tree on fire in Christmas Vacation.
True.
Yes, Tim Burton was busy making Batman Returns. So Henry Selick had the dictum to make this as close to the original drawings and Tim Burton's spirit as possible, even though he was the director. And the movie from the get-go was not originally titled Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. That was added on by Disney later. And you can tell, Burton is not interviewed for this special, but Selick is. And you could tell that he was taken aback and still is.
Well, that's what I know, right? It's like I put all because immediately anybody not in the know is like, oh yeah, that's a Tim Burton movie. Well, it is, but it isn't. I mean, it's based on his ideas, but he didn't direct it.
But again, I can see both sides because without Tim Burton, you'd have no movie.
Correct. Right.
There'd be no movie without his ideas and his driving.
You can't call it Henry Selick's.
That wouldn't play. That wouldn't play.
Even though he does have a nice pedigree. We just looked up that he did direct Coraline for Leica.
Yeah, even with
a couple years later,
if all he did were those two things, he would be legendary. But he was also a Disney employee for so
was Burton.
80s.
The story of Burton that I think it was Fox and the Hound he worked on, and was so disillusioned with the process that he walked away.
But speaking of Disney, they did a test screening for an audience of mostly kids who were dumbfounded by this in 1993. So Disney thought that this was like the death knell for this movie. So what they did was they decided to market it to teenagers. They put Tim Burton's name on it because that cachet from Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice, Batman, Pee-wee, marketed it to teenagers and released it via Touchstone rather than Disney Studios to make it a more adult movie. And it was only until the 2000s when the cult status really picked up steam.
Yeah, I was going to say, because like I said, I think by and large, a lot of the moviegoers were like you. You kind of took it in, but didn't appreciate it for what it really was.
Yeah, I maybe I was not as emotionally intelligent as you back in 1993.
No, I don't know. I was just easily amused, maybe.
Until I watched it through the eyes of my son, I didn't get it. And when I did get it, I embraced it wholeheartedly.
Sometimes it does take the kid to make you.
Yeah. So speaking of that, it cost $24 million to make. It made about double that back on its initial run. I think its initial run, it made $50 million back. And over the subsequent re-releases, It came out in 3D.
Yep.
And when we went to California in 2019, before the whole lockdown, before COVID, we spent a day in Los Angeles, Hollywood, and there's the El Capitan Theater, which is almost right across the street.
Very iconic.
They show every Halloween from September to November a 4D version of Nightmare Before Christmas. And it was playing when we were there. And I'm like, oh, I would so much want to see that. We have one day, though. I can't go and sit in a movie while we're in Los Angeles, right? So I never got to see the film.
Wow. I will say, because I said last week that I was going to watch this 3D, I could not find my disc. I can't find it anywhere.
Really?
And I don't even know if I loaned it out because I don't know anybody else who had a 3D TV. I had to watch it on Disney Plus, which it still looks good.
But still, it looks damn good, right?
It still looks nice. Yeah.
I watched the Blu-ray just for the surround sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say the last couple of years, Elfman has been doing a live concert with these songs.
Has he really?
Yeah. Yeah. They're always out in California. Yeah. So.
Sing-alongs, the whole 9 yards, people breaking down, sobbing. I'm sure.
I'd be mad. Shut up! I want to hear him sing. I don't want to hear you sing.
I wonder who sings Sally's song.
I don't know.
Or Oogie Boogie for that matter, because I think those are the only two that he doesn't sing.
That he doesn't sing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you can't say a bad thing about this. Let's talk about this Patrick Stewart voiceover that exists on the DVD. Or not a DVD, it exists on the CD, on the soundtrack, but not in the movie itself.
Right,
do we know why he was pulled?
Know. I do not know, and maybe one of our listeners does, but in the movie, the opening narration is read by Ed Ivory, who is the actor that voices Santa later on. But on the CD soundtrack, on the record, whatever you have, it's Patrick Stewart saying that same narration. And there's a closing narration on the CD, which is not
in a movie. Yeah.
I'm very familiar with the movie, obviously, but I've listened to the soundtrack numerous times, and I can't say who I prefer.
I know. I mean, obviously, Sir Patrick Stewart is very iconic, and you do recognize his voice the minute you hear it. But I don't.
And he really, the way that he reads it isn't much different than the way
correct
in the film. Yeah. I think the actor in the film that was doing it is probably hitting on those same beats that Patrick Stewart did.
And what's funny is I've probably listened to the soundtrack more than I've watched the movie. So I just automatically assumed that it's always been Patrick Stewart.
So is your room there filled? Do you have any Nightmare Before Christmas merchandise?
I have absolutely none. I don't have anything. Yep.
Well, you've seen around, from what I've shown you during the recording, because my son was into it for, a couple of Christmases. That's what we got him, was any merchandise that we could find. So I have stuff everywhere that's Nightmare Before.
Yeah, no, I really don't. And like I said, the early stuff that came out in correlation to the movie all ended up in like the discount bins because no one was really buying it. And maybe because of the marketing that was mismarketed. That was stuff that you would find like I said, Suncoast or Coconut, the video stores. And now they're like highly sought after.
But now, of course, in today's market, you've got places like Diamond Select and Funko, putting out tons of stuff. The last time we went to New York Comic Con in 2018, of course I had my checkbook with me because I was very prepared to buy quite a bit. But we came across the Diamond Select table. It wasn't a table, it was a whole setup. And they had like a 13, 14-inch Jack in a coffin, fully articulated. I think they wanted $50 or $60 for it. And my son just had it in his hands and was looking at me like, okay, I'll do it. This is a once in a lifetime thing. I'm going to do it. And so that's probably our cornerstone of Nightmare Before Christmas merchandise is that articulated Jack. He can't leave it in the package. It's out and it's displayed somewhere.
Very cool. Yeah, you can't leave it in the package. Sorry. I do see a lot of the Christmas inflatables. I see Jack and Sally all over the place now. And my neighbor down the street actually has the Spire mountaintop.
Really?
Which is like sparkly on the inside, and then you've got the character on top.
Right. So, oh my gosh, I've got to talk about this. When I just mentioned that we went to Los Angeles in fall of 2019, we also, of course, went to Disneyland while we were there. And every fall at Disneyland, they overlay the Haunted Mansion to a Nightmare Before Christmas theme. They only do it in California. So the entire ride is overlaid with the characters from Nightmare Before Christmas. So at one point when your Doom buggy is going backwards. There, in the regular Haunted Mansion, there's a recurring raven that shows up. They switched that out with the vampire teddy bear.
Oh.
And during the one scene where the skeletal hand is trying to get out of its coffin, they have the giant Christmas wreath, and it's almost like an octopus. It's wrapping all the way down the hallway, and it's such a great visual. The floating candelabra is now replaced by a floating zero at the end of the hallway.
Oh, cool.
And at the very end, the groundskeeper that you see shivering with his oil lamp, with his emaciated dog, is now Jack in his Santa suit with Zero right next to him. And Sally is also in that final graveyard scene. And she's the little figure that you normally see at the end saying, hurry back, hurry back. They changed that and it's now Sally. We went on that. I can't even count the amount of times that we went on that while we were at Disneyland last year.
Very cool.
But for some reason, they don't do that in Florida. It is
That is weird.
To California and I think Tokyo Disneyland. So there you have it.
There it is. Nightmare Before Christmas.
Let us officially induct Nightmare Before Christmas into the 5 bucket list. There you go. Love that fan.
And unfortunately, we did not get Christina's intake. But
yes, I know this is a favorite of hers as well. So when we talk next week, let's talk about this now. Next week, we're going to come back with some more Christmas spirit. We are inducting another Christmas movie into the 5 bucket list. And this is going to be The Muppets Christmas Carol.
Nice.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, Christina will be here with us next week to talk Muppets Christmas Carol. And when she is, we're going to get her, short take on Nightmare Before Christmas.
As well as our last episode of Mandalorian will be next week as well.
That'll be next week as well. Things are coming to a head here going into 2021.
It's all right. We need to get out of this year.
It's almost there. Not quite.
I don't know. I see there's a big, huge snowstorm on its way. So it may be it.
I'm really excited about that, actually. I'm sorry for you, Jeff. I know
that I'm not excited at all.
You are not, but
no, sorry. But this job has ruined snow for me.
Ugh.
So, but for the rest of you, enjoy.
You'll be out in the thick of it.
All right. Well, that was fun.
Yes, it was. So thanks for listening.
Thank you very much for listening. And please, we'll catch you next week.
Yes, please come back. Bye.
Yep, bye.
Hello, everybody. If you liked the podcast you just heard, then please follow TMI on all of our social media outlets. First and foremost, email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. That is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast2018. Stop over, say hi, give us a compliment. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, which is also TMI_podcast2018.
And of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/TMI Podcast 2018. And it should be noted, we also have a community page, so join the forum.
And if you like to watch YouTube, you can see us at TMI Podcast 2018, all one word. Look for the popcorn bucket.
Popcorn bucket. Or you could just go to our website, which has every link there, TMIconfessionalspodcast.com. And we'll see you at the concession stand.
We'll save some popcorn for you.
Bunny.
Sally.